Thank you very much for visiting my channel. If not difficult, like and subscribe to my channel to always be aware of events. Thank. Vladimir Putin arrives in Iran today to forge a fearsome new alliance, with both sanction-hit countries united by their hatred for the West. The Russian leader will meet President Raisi and Ayatollah Khamenei, the Islamic Republic's supreme leader, during the talks aimed at boosting ties between the regimes. It is only the second time Putin has been abroad since launching his brutal invasion of Ukraine 5 months ago. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Tehran is planning to provide hundreds of combat drones to Moscow. The meeting comes amid warnings from the US last week that Iran is preparing to sell drones to Russia to use in Ukraine. A Russian delegation visited an Iranian airfield on June 8 and July 5 to inspect the drones, which could be used to direct artillery fire and destroy Ukrainian military hardware, the White House said. Head of the Russian International Affairs Council said, "This is an important visit for Putin personally. And Iranian soldiers will train their Russian counterparts in how to use the drones, with lessons beginning in just a few weeks." Russian state TV propagandist Yevgeny Popov said the two nations will form an axis of good, mocking George W. Bush's axis of evil description of Iran, Iraq and North Korea. Andrei Kortunov, showing off Russia's international clout as it grows increasingly isolated and plunges deeper into confrontation with the West. It has been suggested that Russia will offer unspecified military assistance in exchange for the drones. The gathering has symbolic meaning for Putin back home. The Kremlin doesn't want to allow itself to be isolated internationally. It comes just days after U.S. President Joe Biden's visited Israel and Saudi Arabia, Iran's primary rivals in the region. Iran has rapidly advanced its nuclear program since former President Donald Trump abandoned the atomic accord and reimposed crushing sanctions. While Russia has also frequently issued nuclear saber-rattling against the West. Backed into a corner by the West and its regional rivals, Iran is ramping up uranium enrichment. Cracking down on dissent and grabbing headlines with optimistic, hard-line stances intended to keep the Iranian currency from crashing. Without sanctions relief in sight, Iran's tactical partnership with Russia has become one of survival, even as Moscow appears to be undercutting Tehran in the black market oil trade.